Super Mario Party has launched.
Everybody's favorite.
Yeah, well, I mean, this seems to be a return to form for the series. A lot of people were disappointed with the Wii U versions of the game that came out not too long ago.
All those avid Super Mario Party fans.
Yeah, and needless to say,
apparently they exist.
Some people are huge fans of it, but it's not our cup of tea. But the issue that people are pointing out is that it's a bit limiting as far as what you can do in the controller compartment, or what you can use really in the controller department. Apparently it does not support handheld mode with the Joy-Cons docked onto the Switch, and you're of course playing the game in handheld mode. And it also doesn't support, I believe, the Pro controller.
Wait, it doesn't support... Didn't we see like clips of that in the Nintendo Direct thing where they announced Mario Party and like they were like laying it on the table?
They had it lying down on the table, but they had the Joy-Con separated off of it. It supports that. We're not talking about portable mode. We're talking about handheld mode,
where it's connected.
Where it's connected. So you basically, the only thing you could do is play it with the Joy-Cons detached from it.
It's weird.
So
but...
yeah, a bit strange. And I'm trying to make sure. I'm actually reading this or getting the information from an article on Kotaku, and
yeah,
I think they said that they did mention that it doesn't work with the Pro. Yeah, it doesn't support the use of the Switch Pro controller or dual Joy-Cons mounted to the screen in handheld mode. So basically, yeah, you can just use it with the Joy-Cons detached, and it is kind of weird when this happens with the game. In fact, I believe that the first year that the Switch was out, there was a game released for it that only was you could only control it with the touchscreen. So that basically you can't play that game with it docked, with it in the dock and connected to your television. That's weird.
Isn't that the point of the Switch?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point of the Switch. It's not to limit you, it's to free you. It's to give you several different options for playing different ways.
Right.
Like, the play anywhere kind of deal. And something I did want to mention is that Nintendo has actually done this a lot in the past when it comes to their controller setups, and I wanted to kind of cover those. So this is probably one of the first things that really irritated me. The Wii, of course, was the first Nintendo console to support the Virtual Console, where you could download old games from the past. And I remember when they first announced, like, hey, you have the Wiimote, which is great for if you're playing old NES games, because when you turn it sideways, it has the same layout as an NES controller.
Yeah.
You've got the control pad, and then you've got the two buttons.
1 and 2, yeah.
So 1 and 2, which emulate A and B. And then they were like, and don't worry, we've got the classic controller that's like Y, X, A, B, and it looks a lot like the Super Nintendo controller, except with 2 joysticks added. So I remember thinking, I was like, oh, okay, well that's cool and all, but I think I'll just use the GameCube controller because it had GameCube controller ports or slots on it, and you could play GameCube games on it. So I just figured, okay, well, if they're letting me use different controllers, I can just use the GameCube controller. Well, you can use the GameCube controller, and I just happen to have one here. But the problem with the GameCube controller is that this is B, this is A, Y, and X on here. And they didn't bother remapping it to be like, well, B for a Super Nintendo game, B works for Y, A works for B, because that's naturally where your thumb would be. Y is in the same is the place where B would be. They left it the same way. So let's say you're playing Super Mario World, and A, which is the right face button, does the drill jump. So every time you want to jump, you've got to hit B. and then you've got to hold Y, which is up here, to run and B to jump. It wouldn't work. They basically forced you, and of course, I don't know why, but Nintendo has this thing about you're not allowed to remap stuff. That always has bothered me with their games. Like most of their games, like you can't just say, well, I'd rather this button jump or that button attack. You can do it. They let you do it on the latest Smash Brothers with the Wii U and the 3DS version, which I loved. I've got that mapped to exactly how I want it. But most of their games, they don't let you do that. So that was I felt like they did that to basically force you to, oh, you want to play Super Nintendo games? Buy a classic controller. So that was crappy.
Yeah.
Some other examples to go along with this. Go on, do tell.
Yes.
We've talked about this on the podcast before. Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Yeah.
You could only use the Wiimote, and that's it. You couldn't use a classic controller. You couldn't use anything. You can use GameCube controller, of course. You could only use, I believe they allowed you to use the Wiimote or the Wiimote paired with the nunchuck.
Well, that's not as annoying because it's like if you got a Wii, you got a Wiimote, and so it's like, what,
and then they force
point?
you. They force you to use the motion controls, the shake. They make you shake the controller for a lot of stuff, including attacking.
Oh yeah, isn't that the game we talked about how they have it on DS, and you were talking about how it's better?
It's probably going to be better.
That?
Yeah, I've never played on the DS, but I imagine it's better just for that reason alone. So yeah, there's that one too. And then when they came out with the Wii U, it didn't bother me that they left out GameCube ports so that you could play Smash Brothers with the GameCube controllers. What bothered me is they made it so that, and this doesn't make any sense, they released an adapter for the Wii U to let you plug in GameCube controllers. Mm-hmm. I have it. It works fantastic on Smash Brothers. Nothing else.
Really?
Really. The control, it does not work on anything else. Granted, you can't play any GameCube titles. It's not compatible. You can't put the disc in there. They don't even allow they don't allow you to download GameCube titles on the Virtual Console, but Wii titles you can download. So I thought that was kind of an odd thing too. But here's why they should have let you use the GameCube controllers on the Wii U for just a normal controller. It's that there's plenty of Wii games that allow you to use the GameCube as a controller, or the GameCube controller as your main input. Smash Brothers Brawl is one of them. Yeah. I have some racing games that let you use the GameCube controller. I have platform games. I've got Sonic Colors. Like, as soon as... And that's how I played all of my Wii games. I was like, oh, this will let me use the GameCube controller. I know what controller I'm using. I'm not going to use a Wiimote because the GameCube controller is better. So it's just strange that they've kind of had this weird history of forcing you to play stuff. Not to even go into the Nintendo 64 controller. The infamous 3-pronged controller that you could like hold this way or that way or that way.
You don't like that either?
No.
I don't get it.
That was a mess.
Dude, I told you a while ago about how I was at that. I played the N64. I played Mario 64 on the N64, and I was like, what is this controller? Yeah. There were a couple things that I had to do where it was just really awkward. Like, I don't remember specifically, but I just remember like this is like having to like reach like, and it was like weird.
Yeah, and they never. They basically didn't. They could have let you like remap. Like maybe you don't want to hold the control that way. Maybe you want to like remap buttons and like it's like you made this controller with all these different methods of holding it and using it, and yet you don't let me use it the way that I would want to use it. So this doesn't surprise me. I just thought of something else. Those new NES controllers that will only work with the Nintendo Online.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's another example. They will not work with anything else.
The ones for the Switch, you mean?
Yeah. It's like, why does Nintendo do this sometimes? Sometimes, like,
I guess you could say that they're control freaks.
Indeed. I'm not even going to poo-poo that. That was perfect.
That's like, levels, man.
No, honestly, and I hate doing this, and I'm probably, if any Apple fan watches this, they're probably going to get upset about what I'm about to say, but Nintendo...
triggered.
Nintendo, trigger warning right now. Nintendo kind of sometimes acts like Apple. where it's like, we know you wanted to do it this way, but we're not going to let you. You have to do it this way.
Yeah.
Because we're Nintendo.
Like with the ringtones and stuff.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, this is not the first time Nintendo has pulled this nonsense. Just pay attention to Nintendo. They tend to do this, and I wish that they would stop it. Of course. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think that Nintendo has had a sordid history with their controller options, or do you think maybe we're being a bit too harsh? Leave a comment below.